So what is the right way to preach the gospel? Let's take a look at it. Acts 2 and verse 37. Now when they heard this, they were pricked in their hearts and said unto Peter and to the rest of the apostles, Men and brethren, what shall we do? You see, the end result of preaching the gospel, the response we must get from people is, what shall I do? If the end result is not achieved, it's not preaching the gospel. So yeah, you can be involved in all kinds of, you can be a preacher, you can minister to 10 different churches, and yet, it can just be a feel-good pep rally. But if at the end of your service, people don't ask themselves, what must I do? It's not preaching the gospel. So, you can have soup kitchens to feed the poor. Oh yeah, you can have community service. Your church can have community service. You can serve your community with food and this and that and children's. You can have trick or trunk at your church to keep the kids off the street. But at the end of the day, if people you are serving do not ask, what must I do? It's not preaching the gospel. It's not preaching the gospel. So if I'm feeding the poor, all right, if I'm letting my light shine, if I'm living the Christian example, but not getting the end results from people, and that is, what must I do? It's not really preaching the gospel. The end result of preaching the gospel, the response we must get is, what shall I do? Now consider today's gospel. At least what I'm hearing is, well, there's nothing you must do. Grace plus nothing. The law's been abolished. Therefore, what else is there to do? Just believe. Just invite Jesus into your heart. Just raise your hand. Yeah, I believe in Jesus. With today's gospel, there's nothing to do. And you wonder why the churches are full of unconverted people who have never changed anything about the way that they think, about the way that they act, about what they do and what they don't do. There's not a lot of difference between a person going to church and a person who's out in the world not going to church. There's not a lot of difference between the two. I think about the divorce rate. It's 50% of people end up getting a divorce in the church, and there's 50% of people that end up getting a divorce who never go to church. There's no difference, is what I'm saying. What must I do? Now, I want to look at some examples of this in Jesus' ministry, where he brought people to this point, and he talks about this in his ministry of bringing people to a point of, okay, what do I have to do now? All right, what do I have to do once I've received your grace and forgiveness? What must I do? John 8 and verse 11, you know the story. And she said to him, no man, Jesus had asked this woman, does any man condemn you? And she said, no man, Lord. Jesus said, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. There's the what must I do. If Jesus had stopped at, neither do I condemn thee, it would not have been preaching the gospel. But he didn't stop with, neither do I condemn thee. He said, go and sin no more. What must I do?